Hey there guys, so with the release of Soul on Christmas Day, it was time to rank all 23 Pixar films. I did do this list about 4 years ago, just before Finding Dory came out, and since then we had like 7 new Pixar films. So I rewatched most of them recently, and my opinion has changed since then. I mean, looking back on that video, I was so stiff, and at times it is really cringe to watch. So let's start with number 23, and yeah, my opinion still hasn't changed on the last place. Coming in at last place is Cars 2. I mean, I don't know where to start with this one. It isn't really a bad film technically. I mean, kids appreciate this one, but it's a complete step down from the first Cars film. They completely shift tones from a coming-of-age story to a generic spy flick. And making Maida the central focus is probably like the lowest point for Pixar. At number 22 is Brave. I honestly don't know how this film won an Oscar. It has a nice 30-minute setup and it does have those charming characters to it, but it takes a turn for the worse when the stupid twist comes in. And at that point it loses momentum for me and it becomes this generic fairy tale. At number 21 is Cars 3. I'm not gonna lie, I was really looking forward to this one. The trailers made it look like Rocky 3 for Cars. And it is a return to form after Cars 2, but it is really dull and boring. I like the idea of Lightning McQueen sets out to prove that his generation of racers still got it, but in the end he gives up and passes the torch. Not the ending that Lightning McQueen deserves. At number 20 is Finding Dory. Just like Finding Nemo, it does have those charming moments and it can be funny to watch. And they really nailed the emotions and the backstory that Dory is going through. Story-wise, it's exactly the same as the first movie, just with a few tweaks, and it's nowhere as good. At number 19 is Onward. Now this one really squanders in its own potential. I love the premise and the world building, fantasy creatures living in a modern society. The story, however, is really sloppy. The story beats are constructed poorly, but it does have that emotional depth to it, especially for people who lost someone. At number 18 is A Good Dinosaur. I've always had a soft spot for this one. As Pixar films go, this is probably the most basic in terms of story and structure. But the best way to describe this film is cute. I love the designs and the personality traits of the dinosaurs. At number 17 is Monsters University. Even Monsters Inc. fans didn't ask for this. They would rather have a sequel. But this film has grown on me the past few years and it succeeds as a prequel. Just like the first movie, the monster designs are an instant win. The story-wise, however, is basically Revenge of the Nerds and it's nothing special. And due to the fact it's a prequel, you kind of know what's going to happen at certain points. At number 16 is Cars. I've always liked this one. It doesn't deserve the bad reputation compared to its sequels. Yes, compared to most Pixar films, it doesn't have the heart and the depth. It's that typical getting your ego checked type of story, but it's effective. And considering all the characters in this film are cars, they have heart compared to the characters in the previous films I mentioned. At number 15 is A Bug's Life. Now, once upon a time, this was top 5. This was the first film I ever saw in cinema, but the animation hasn't held up, and its story-wise is basically a Seven Samurai ripoff. But on an entertainment level, it's fun, it's quirky, it has lovable characters, it has a great feeling, and it is easy to watch. At number 4 is Toy Story 4. Now it may be a great Pixar film, but it's the weakest Toy Story film by far. I will say it's the funniest Toy Story film, and Gabby Gabby is the most complex film we've had. But this feels like an epilogue to the Toy Story trilogy. I mean, it should have its own subtitle like Woody's Final Roundup. Maybe because I wasn't bothered about this film because I was done with the franchise after Toy Story 3. And all the characters I grew up on and loved like Potato Head, Rex, Jessie are pushed aside in this film. And Buzz doesn't feel like a main character in this. At number 13 is WALL-E. Now this is great science fiction. Just like Bug's Life, this was a top 5. I love the first 45 minutes. At its core, it's a 21st century silent film. A robot on his own who can only speak by tone forms a relationship with another robot. But in the second half it becomes this space adventure. There's nothing wrong with it and it is great to watch, but it feels like a different film. At number 12 is Coco. Now it respects and captures Mexican culture. It deals with the afterlife with doses of family responsibilities and regret. The film itself is vibrant, beautiful and just colourful to look at, and the third act really hits you. At number 11 is Ratatouille. Now this one has grown on me the past few years. I still think it's overrated. It has this bizarre story about a man being controlled by a rat, but Brad Bird takes the concept and makes it work. It may not be top 10, but it's one of the rewatchable ones. At number 10 is the latest edition, Soul, a film that celebrates life. It leaves you inspired and wanting the best out of life. I wish we got more of an aftermath like what happened to Joe in 22, but it is another win for Pixar. At the moment, it's currently at number 10, but one day maybe higher. At number 9 is Finding Nemo. Now, a lot of people forget that the first 10 minutes is emotional. It's on the same level as Up. At its core, it's a film that deals with parenting and letting go at the same time. The characters are just delightful, and in terms of plotting, it's the most fun out of all the Pixar films. At number 8 is Up. Now, I've learned to appreciate this film over the past few years. Yes, the first 10 minutes is emotional as hell. You get to see this couple go through their highs and lows, but there's a lot going for this film. I mean, the animation is just beautiful, especially the color palettes of the balloons lifting the house. The characters are just full of life, and you forget how funny it is. At number 7 is Monsters Inc. I would say this is the most rewatchable Pixar film out of all of them. It has this fun twist on children's nightmares, monsters in the closet. The monsters aren't vicious creatures, they just simply need their screams to power up their cities. And Mike and Sully are easily the best Pixar duo behind Buzz and Woody. But just like Onward, it has this fun and intriguing world building and concept. And on top of that, you have great characters. Number 6 is Incredibles 2. Now, I waited 14 years for this film and it was worth it to a certain degree. I don't think it's as iconic and groundbreaking as the first movie, but some of the ideas I was really skeptical on, like Mr. Incredible staying at home with the kids while Elastigirl is doing the heroic stuff. But Brad Bird pulled it off nicely. It has a great villain, probably a better villain than the first movie. It has great action, and it is funny to watch, especially with the Jack stuff. And number 5 is the one that started all, Toy Story. Now, I still think the animation holds up nicely. Story-wise, it doesn't have the scale compared to Toy Story 2 and 3, but it has a lot of heart to it. It introduces us the best Pixar duo, Buzz and Woody. When Buzz realizes he's actually a toy and just wants to give up on life, it's a sucker punch. And I still think it's the darkest Pixar film. I mean, you have Sid, who's this psychopath to these toys, blowing them up and swapping pieces with them. This chase sequence to the moving fan is my favourite third act out of all the Pixar films. And number 4 was Toy Story 2. Now, it took everything I loved about the first movie and gave us a new dynamic on the characters and the themes, and with a grander scale story to it. A lot of people forget it has some adult jokes, like Buzz getting a hard on from Jessie, but watching Buzz's backstory and what he's going through in this film with this Star Wars homage is fun to watch. But the film goes through ideas of nostalgia and childhood and how growing up means change, and watching Jessie's backstory is always a sucker punch every time. And number 3 is Inside Out. Today, I still think it's Pixar's most cleverest film and the one that saved Pixar. Two opposites getting lost, we've seen it done before loads of times in Pixar films, but this was on a new level, and the way the film visualizes us, what's going on in our heads, is just incredible. Out of all the Pixar films, this is the one I would love to see a sequel to. And number 2 is The Incredibles. Out of all the Pixar films, this is the one I watch the most. At its core, it's a redundant superhero on a midlife crisis. Brad Bird made a great superhero film that deals with family drama but has that distinct old school spy movie theme to it. The action is top notch and the score is phenomenal. It's my favourite score out of all the Pixar films. So my favourite Pixar film is Toy Story 3. This is the true ending to the Toy Story franchise to me. I remember seeing this for the first time like it was yesterday. Me and my friend were so ambitious. I was way more ambitious than him, but I was like, we've got to see this tomorrow after school, otherwise I'll see this without you. And this film is just great all around. At its core, it's a prison break film, but Lotso is my favourite villain. Michael Keaton as Ken is such a fun addition. That one scene when they're all in the furnace and they're holding hands, you believed this was going to be it. The ending when Andy passes the toys over to Bonnie and they have one final playtime hits me on so many levels. It puts me in tears. So yeah, Toy Story 3 is just an incredible film to me. I mean, number 1 and number 2 were kind of a battle, but in terms of emotion, Toy Story 3 knocks it out at the park. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Go like, share and subscribe. Let me know, where would you rank all the Pixar films? Go check out my Facebook, my Twitter and my Instagram page. You guys are awesome. I got your back.